honored to have this position and be part of the company. An amazing company with a beautiful product, a great compensation plan, and I'm sure all the members on here have experienced that. So we'd like to welcome you today. It's our first doctor's call for 2023. We have none other than Dr. Anthony Hoffer himself to take us through the doctor's calls. We will be having these on a more regular basis. This is to educate our members on colostrum, the benefits of it, but more importantly, how does colostrum relate to the conditions that you have? And before I get started, we also have our Regional Director of Africa, Mr. Chris Roger Perry, who's online there. Chris, I do see you online. So, sir, if you can honor us by opening up this call, I will also ask you to come in at the end of the call to close the call. But if you can just turn on your mic and your audio there for us, say a few words, and I'll hand it back over to Dr. Ants after that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Vinesh. And yeah, great to have everyone on the call here. It's always a pleasure to be talking to our new image members and educating them and learning how to live a longer, healthier life. And I've been with Dr. Hoffer a number of times around different places in South Africa here. And I've been around the company for 30 odd years and I'm still learning lots. So that's part of the journey of life as we understand it, is to keep learning, keep active, keep the mind active, keep the mind and the body working correctly, and you can live a longer, healthier life. And that's what we're here in Africa to do too. And obviously today we're very privileged to have Dr. Hoffer on with us, who's going to share a lot of the details or the background and benefits of using colostrum to help us do that. I certainly practice that every day, and I know Dr. Hoffer is working at that as well. And everyone on this call today, we hope you learn something from no doubt you'll learn something from participating today. So congratulations for being on the call and welcome. And I'll talk to you later on. In fact, at the end of the call, got a bit of news to update you on where the company's at and where we're doing and what we're doing around the world. And also ask a couple of questions and give away a couple of our tablet products, colostrum tablet products, and that's got a retail value of over 1,000 rand. So hang in there and keep with it, and a lucky guest and a lucky member can take away 1,000 rands worth of our beautiful colostrum products. Thanks, Vinesh.
Fantastic. So you heard that, guys. Stay online, some free product giveaways. So I'd like to welcome everyone online. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we have a very special guest on the call there. I see someone from Malaysia, Mazitul. Is that correct, Shamima? Did I pronounce that right? Mazitul. So if everyone else is from South Africa, I know you are, just light up the chat box. Let's welcome our guest there from Malaysia. Thank you so much. And over to you, Dr. Ants. Take it away.
Mazitul. It's correct. Mazitul.
Oh, fantastic.
All right, Vinesh. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me again today to be on this call and to chat to our members. And it's always an honor for me to spend time with everybody and share whatever information I can. I really enjoy my time with you guys and sharing whatever information I can. And so today we're going to discuss colostrum, but it's not going to be a product by product training session. We felt that it's important more to talk about the colostrum, and when I say colostrum in general, I'm talking about, although you can get it in a tablet form and a capsule form and various forms, as we well know, I think the education really comes from, let's look a little bit more closely at what colostrum can do for us. How does it work in the body? And, let's just share the ins and outs of what is inside colostrum, because often we read various bits of information on the flyers and we may not be able to completely digest all the criteria that comes with learning about colostrum, because it is a super well researched product. And I try and take a lot of this information and condense it to try and make it easy. And one of the things I try and do consistently is to look at my slides or my presentations and then ask myself the question afterwards, how could I redo this that is more effective, that comes across a little bit more easy to understand, because we don't really want to get wrapped up in very technical information. And I'd like to possibly look at that, when it comes to sharing this information with some of our doctor colleagues who may well want that sort of information. But today is not about being too technical. It's about getting a better understanding of colostrum and how do we apply this to our daily lives. So I'm going to kick off now, and what I want to jump to and just show everybody is we're going to be talking about, just to mention as well, today is my official launch. I've written this book. It's an ebook, which will be available shortly after we finished our online session today. We're going to look at how we can download this book. It's meant for you. It's a breakdown of colostrum, and hopefully comes in a format that is easy to understand, broken down into chapters about how it works in the gut, how to choose the right colostrum for you, all sorts of chapters that I've put together. And so it's a free ebook, and it's going to be in a downloadable form so that you can easily read through it. And obviously, I would really love feedback. I love it, whether it's good or bad or constructive criticism. That's always very welcome, because it's the feedback that I need, which confirms whether what I've prepared for you is of value. So enough about that. We're going to jump into the presentation. So that's really what the book is. That's titled Colostrum, the Miracle Superfood, and the most researched nutritional product in the world. That is not a joke. That is seriously probably the most highly documented product ever when you look at the research behind it. So that's launching today. This is a little bit about me. I don't want to spend time on that much at all, but for those of you that are new to the call, I'm Dr. Anthony Hoffer. I have a PhD in metaphysics from the US, and I'm also a clinical nutritionist and qualified from London. And I've been in the natural healthcare field for probably about the last 15 years actively. And I prefer to look at a speciality of mine as functional medicine, which is an evolution in the practice of medicine that better addresses the healthcare needs of the 21st century. Healthcare is changing, guys, and we're finding more and more and more the need to prescribe medication. People are rising up and saying, well, hang on a sec, what is this doing in my body? They're starting to ask questions, and starting to question your doctors, and I hope that the doctors have got answers, because we can't continue prescribing medications for symptoms. We've got to look at what causes our problems and how to fix the cause. And if we're not fixing the cause, we're not helping our patients. So this is really what it is a traditional approach, a more patient-centered approach is what we call it, addressing the whole person, because you're not just made up of symptoms. You are way more than that. So we want to address you as a whole, and that's addressing lifestyle, exercise, sleep, all those sort of things, diet, nutrition, supplementation. It all forms part of what you are made of, and very essential in getting you well and getting you back on your feet is to take your entire package and look at that. So that's how I do it. I just think a 10 or a 15-minute consultation is not enough to help somebody. So we need a bit more time with our people and a bit more heart-centered and focused on getting them well. So let's talk about colostrum, or the science of colostrum. And you will see in the yellow writing there, the most researched nutritional supplement in the world. Wow. A couple of years ago, I used to read, there were about 5,000 clinical studies. Well, I think that figure has since doubled by now. And so we want to just talk a little bit about this amazing product. that I was introduced to a few years back through a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Warren van Zyl, and very grateful that he invited me to a talk, and just like a lot of you people that have been present in our meetings and talks to get an introduction into colostrum. So that happened to me. And I took a lot more interest in it, in the sense that I started to look at the background, the science behind it, and could I learn more? And obviously, this is how things work, right? You want to learn more about the product, but the other half of it is about actually using it in your daily life, because knowing about it on paper is one thing. Learning how to take the product and feel the effects of it makes the picture more complete. It's very difficult to talk about a product when you've only known about it on paper, when you've had the opportunity to use it. And this is about how you feel on colostrum, because many people that are struggling with conditions, they know exactly how they felt, and being unwell is not a nice place to be in. And when you even get 10% better than where you were, you will remember that. And if the only thing that you changed was your colostrum and that helped you get 10% better, you will know the difference clearly between how you feel on colostrum and how you used to feel being unwell, right? So let's jump ahead. Today we want to talk about the agenda for today. What exactly are we going to talk about? And this book that you see here, Peptide Immunotherapy, is similar to how I've positioned my book, except I've called it the Miracle Superfood. And I believe that Mr. Perry knows Andrew Keach, who's the author and a PhD of Peptide Immunotherapy. And I know that Vinesh also has a hard copy of this book, and that book is also loaded with a lot more detail on colostrum, but it is a wealth of information. So, some of the information is what I got from this book as well. So I want you to just put it into a simpler version of that. So this is all about simplicity and being able to understand. So what's on the agenda? We want to talk about how colostrum acts in the body, and what colostrum products are we talking about in particular? Is all colostrum the same? Well, we'll get to that. And what's in colostrum that makes it nature's powerhouse? So, and of course, the benefits and conditions of taking colostrum. So we'll talk a little bit about the growth factors in colostrum and diabetes, because this is certainly becoming a very prominent topic in our experience of colostrum over the years, as we have a problem on our hands with the amount of diabetics all over South Africa, and we need to change this, and we have an answer for you with colostrum. What are the studies showing about colostrum? And so we're going to jump into the next slide here. So the question I asked myself is, how do you evaluate the effectiveness of a product? Well, how do we do that? One is we look at clinical trials and studies via medicine, which is exactly what I did when I first started to look at how effective a product was. And secondly, we want evidence and testimonies from real people, and we want to share that information by word of mouth. So we have two criteria, and I know that a lot of the doctors initially say, well, give me the information. Well, that's all very well. Happy to do that. And boy, oh boy, do we have information to share. But the other thing is, as I've watched over the years, I've stood in numerous meetings and done presentations, and I've watched these guys stand up and give their testimonies of how they've changed their health and changed their lives. And we're starting to see this more and more frequently, people battling with all sorts of conditions. And there's no better evidence than somebody who stands up and they are their own testimony. So I pay attention to that, because I don't think the product would have survived if it couldn't do the job that it does, right? And I'm sure you guys will agree with that. You can have on paper the best product in the world, but if it doesn't deliver the results, the company is not going to last too long. So we sure as hell have all the evidence. We've got a really big science department back in New Zealand, which I'm happy to say I've shared a bit of information with over the time. And what a wonderful bunch of people that are happy to share. They're an open book about, about their products. There's nothing to hide. We want people to know exactly what they're putting into their bodies. And it's important for you to educate yourself with what you put in your mouth, not only for colostrum, but for anything. You got to start learning to read labels. And don't just grab your shopping cart and throw things into your shopping cart. Read labels, read what you're putting into your body. And once you start getting into that habit, you start to determine whether this thing or this product has got stuff that you don't want in it. And you can very, very easily see for yourself things like sugar that are absolutely loaded in a lot of the products. We've been going through this here in South Africa, my wife and I, where whatever we look at labels. And when we see sugar disguised as sorbitol, sulfame K, fructose, and all sorts of stuff, those are things you want to keep away from because they're highly inflammatory, they're highly toxic. And for somebody that's trying to get their health right, it's not something you want to add into your shopping cart. Right. So let's jump in a little bit further and talk about the way that colostrum works. Well, we say it acts in three major pathways. We say it's anti-infectious, we say it's anti-inflammatory, and an antioxidant. So remember that. It's the AAA, the AAA, infection, inflammatory, and oxidation. And we'll break down those and get a better understanding of that in just a moment. And you'll see on the screen two interesting facts. The IgG antibody levels in colostrum are about 70 times higher than in regular cow's milk. So those antibodies that you get in colostrum have a lot more punch than human colostrum. And not to say that human colostrum doesn't do its job, it absolutely does. But when we're trying to get well, we need a much higher dose of the IgG is the main antibody in the blood that circulates through the body, and it does its job at defending against pathogens and things like that. So we want to make sure we get a very high level, and that comes in packaged in nature. So colostrum has it in it. And also, you may not know that bovine, and bovine, by the way, guys, if you're not too sure what bovine is, if it's your first time here learning about colostrum, bovine is from the cow. And it's one of the few non-hormonal performance-enhancing substances not banned by the Olympic Committee. So interesting point. We don't want to harp on too much about that, but I just thought you might want to know about things like that. All right, so the three areas of focus today are going to be how colostrum is, how it cleanses, how it repairs, and how it protects. So a simple diagram there, you'll see cleansing in the gut, repairing at cell level, and also protecting you against pathogens and viral infections and nasty bugs like that. So the first function is about cleansing. And the colostrum, as we know, has got added vitamins and minerals. So how does it actually do the cleansing? Well, colostrum contains probiotics. And these probiotics assist with detoxification, which balance all the organs in the digestive system, and they also contain essential vitamins and minerals. The colostrum also inhibits or destroys harmful pathogens that can colonize in the gut and cause major health problems, such as Helicobacter pylori, which is becoming quite a popular bug in the gut, and it can cause major problems in the gut. You can be tested for it if you're not sure. And the symptoms can range from bloating to stomach pain to when an ulcer presents, it's very, very similar. So you can do a test specific for H. pylori. So it is quite a common bug, but colostrum deals with that very, very effectively. Right. So colostrum also acts to heal the damage to the intestinal lining, caused by these pathogens and toxins that accumulate there. So, think about that. We'll get into the ins and outs of the importance of gut health. And this is really where colostrum is aimed at, starting in the gut, because we say that most of illness starts in the gut. And if we heal the gut, the cascade effect is that it starts to heal everything else. So let's look at the second function, which is repair. And it repairs with these growth factors that help the body grow and repair muscles and tissue. So how does it do this? So colostrum contains what we call growth factors. And these stimulate and increase the growth rate in tissues and muscle. So if you think about the sportsman looking for faster recovery, better performance, this is why colostrum has become a prime product for them, because it assists them hugely with recovery, repairing that tissue, that muscle tissue, and enhancing their performance. So, just as I've mentioned, important for athletes to repair damage to muscles and tissue. And also it helps the production of collagen, nerves, bone, and helps to burn fat. Wow. Oh, okay. So I hope there's a few guys on this call and a few gents that are being with us today, because I think there's things we can learn from colostrum. I know the ladies always dominate the meetings and they always present. So I'm very grateful for you ladies always showing up and doing the work. And fat burning is always an issue. Weight loss is always an issue, isn't it? So, just to let you know that colostrum can certainly help you with that. And we'll get into a little bit of that information just now. So the third function is protection. Protection from what? Well, it's an important factor in the immune system. Because if you don't have an immune system, or you've got a very weak or low immunity, you then become a higher target for all sorts of pathogens and bugs. So how does colostrum do that? Well, it contains immune factors, which is important to protect against infection and disease. And remember that the IgG that we spoke about a little earlier, which is 70 times higher than the human colostrum, it gives you higher protection against viruses and fungi and yeast infections. So isn't it amazing to think that you get all of this in a simple substance? All of what we're talking about comes in the amazing can, right? Isn't that amazing? So it sounds like we're talking about multiple products, but it's one product. Right, so we're going to just skip that one. So why is alpha lipid colostrum better than other brands? So I've put this slide up to show you the difference in its ability to be absorbed and its effectiveness compared to some of the other brands. So it's absorbed 8 times more than other brands. And why? All other brands do not have the alpha lipid coating to aid better absorption. And we'll talk about that in a moment, because that's a big trademark and such an important thing. Distinguishes New Image from a lot of the other brands. And I've also mentioned this in my book. That's a topic in my book that we'll talk about, why that's so important. All right. So, which leads us to this. Not all colostrum is equal, okay? I have looked at numerous health shops wherever I go to try and find what colostrum is on the shelf. What information do they share about the colostrum? And I haven't come up with anything yet that's given me detailed information. So, and we also know the truth of it all is, it's all about being able to be absorbed. So if you can't get the colostrum into the gut and bypass the harsh acidity in the stomach, most of what you consume then will not be absorbed and digested. So this is a very, very important part of what New Image has done exceptionally well, where it really changes your value for money in the product. Because if you're going to be spending a decent amount of money on a superfood, you want to make sure you're getting your bang for your buck, aren't you? So what does that mean? It's about being absorbable and soluble so that you can fully absorb it into the small intestine. And this is where all the absorption takes place, right, in the small intestine. So the two pictures just show you graphically the difference between an insoluble form and a soluble form. And of course, New Zealand has patented this technology. And you will see in red there, the coatings of the colostrum particles are coated in a lipid layer. Lipid means a fat layer, to protect the particles from the stomach acid so that it's taken past that into the small intestine to be able to be absorbed. That is a very, very important thing to understand. If you can't get that product delivered to where it needs to go, which is not just the small intestine, but into the cells, into the body, then you really don't have something that's going to be that effective. To top that, you're looking at a pasteurization where 90% of the immunoglobulins, or antibodies is the other word for them, remain active, because it's no use having such a high temperature that you destroy and denature the product completely. So there's nothing left of it. This is technology, guys, and this is what they do to make sure that you get a product intact that is usable and delivered to where it needs to get to. Every batch is tested to ensure purity and compliance with the industry and the food safety guidelines. So on the right, and just coming up at the moment, you will see, okay, my apologies. We were just talking about the patent and the patent number on the right. So I know that it's a much smaller screen, but certainly a very, very important patent for a new image. Right. Aha. I love this slide because when people say, so what's in colostrum? Well, what isn't in it? This is the first slide. This is going to be in two parts. So you can see at an overview, and I'm not going to read every single line of this, but just at a glance, on the left-hand side, you've got all the antibodies, all right, G, M, A, and E, each doing their own part in fighting infection. The peptides part of it, you've got glutathione, and some of you that have heard that word before, they call it the mother of antioxidants. This is already built into colostrum. Glutathione is in there. You also get 80+ growth factors to promote growth, repair of tissue, and also performance. We were speaking about the sports guys. And these cytokines and interleukins, 1, 6, 10, and TNF, these regulate immune response and have antiviral effects. And then you've got all the vitamins on the right-hand side. We've got quite a big spread of that. And then the carbohydrates and
recording in progress.
We've got lactoferrin, and there's two. Remember that in the can, you've got two primary probiotics. You've got the lactobacillus and you've got the bifidobacterium. And as you will know, for those of you that should know your product very well, I'm going to get you to look up the quantity. It's in a unit called CFUs. How many CFUs, for those of you listening, are in colostrum? Because it's a high amount, but I'm not going to say it out. I know what it is. Maybe put your answers into the column, and let's see if you know your product that well. All right, so very important. The digestive enzymes and probiotics in colostrum play a major role. They are added to the colostrum, and they have huge value in gut repair. All right, so we're going to move on to the next slide, which is a continuation of all the minerals and essential amino acids in colostrum. You'll see all the minerals on the left, and you'll be able to recognize and identify a lot of those. Calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, zinc, chromium. You've got the whole list there and all your essential amino acids. But I just want to point to the proline-rich polypeptides, which are right at the bottom of this screen on the right-hand corner. Now, you know, I'd love to get more into that, but what I want to point out here is this product, the Cellworks, okay, is primarily made up of PRPs, proline-rich polypeptides. So this is a spray that is made for under the tongue. Ah, aren't I lucky just to have a quick shot of that during the call? All right. This has got a high amount of proline-rich polypeptides in the spray. And why is it important? Because it goes under the tongue into the receptors under the tongue, and it gets absorbed straight into the bloodstream. So it's a phenomenal product, and it provides extra PRPs over and above what you get in the colostrum. So absolutely amazing product. Love that product. Right, why New Zealand? Well, cows are certified, disease-free, non-immunized, and pasture-fed as they would do in New Zealand. There's never been a case of BSE, and for those of you who don't know what BSE is, you might have heard of mad cow disease and foot and mouth. So they've never had a case of that in New Zealand. So for those of you who might be questioning, but aren't you taking colostrum from the cow? Well, you know, the average cow produces 40 liters of colostrum, of which 10 liters is for the calf, and normally the rest would be thrown away. So the excess, those 30 liters, is what we take to use for processing the colostrum. So just for your information, we thought it might be valuable to understand that we only deal in the excess colostrum. We certainly would never think of, and I say we, New Zealand. Okay. So there's a happy cow for you, and if we've got happy cows, we should have a happy colostrum. And this is collected during the first 4 milkings after giving birth. So what are the benefits of bovine colostrum? Well, in one slide, this is going to be 2 slides in a continuation. So all those metabolic disorders that we talk about, diabetes type 1 and 2. So all of this is what it is beneficial for, and obviously helping to look after oxidative stress and aging or anti-aging, stem cell activities for healing and regenerative processes, beneficial in reducing the risk of septic shock. We're going to show you a few slides just now of sepsis in the body and how important and how well colostrum does for that. And that is tied up with deep wounds. Who would have thought you can use colostrum directly onto cuts and wounds so that it reduces the infection and helps the tissue and it helps the wound repair? Very, very important. So obviously the support and treatment and prevention of bacterial and viral infections, and don't forget fungal infections. So I often refer to, sorry, I was just looking at another screen that popped up on my left here. I often refer to the colostrum as shotgun therapy because it covers the spectrum of antifungal, antiviral, and antibacterial. So just remember that. It covers the spectrum of all of that. Upper respiratory tract infections and diarrhea. Oh my word, if you guys have ever had a bad bout of diarrhea, one that goes on for days and becomes chronic diarrhea, I can tell you from my own experience, and that happened about 2 weeks ago, and it works exceptionally fast. Within 12 hours, I had my diarrhea sorted out. We don't know what bug, both my wife and I had a really bad bout of diarrhea. And the only thing that worked very, very quickly was the colostrum powder, and it was able to deal with that infection. And I did top it up with a few other things, but your primary product is dealing with colostrum to assist in that area. And obviously restoring gut flora by adding the probiotics in the colostrum, and believe it or not, assisting in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease and MS or multiple sclerosis. So we have quite a list, and this is the last of it, and it's also beneficial, as I mentioned earlier, for exercise performance and lean muscle mass or reducing body fat and treating leaky gut syndrome, IBS and IBD. These are all gut issues, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, all those stomach issues that you experience that cause a cascade of problems in the body. You are able to deal with that using colostrum. Now, it also helps in reducing the damage from, we say, NSAIDs, which is your non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, such as Voltaren and ibuprofen, because when they're used excessively or chronically, they start to irritate and hurt the lining of the gut, causing more inflammation. So we don't want that in the gut. We want a healthy gut with as little inflammation as possible. And, also the treatment of allergic and autoimmune disorders, and followed by bouts of influenza or flu, and severe coronary heart disease patients as well. Heart disease, colostrum will certainly play a role in helping anybody that's battling with heart disease. So I hope that made sense for you, and that you were able to look at that list and just get an overview of how diverse this product is. So you can actually see those symptoms, those diseases, and think, my goodness, it treats almost everything. So there the car jumps into the screen, and what we're showing here is how colostrum was able to this is a study, by the way, that was used to look at how the insulin-like growth factor, or the IGF-1 that is present in colostrum, had a significant impact on the improvement and sprint performance of ice hockey players and also rowers. So I'm not going to go into the full ins and outs of the study, but those are the study references at the bottom, and you'll see that the rowers increased their performance when taking colostrum during a 4-minute exercise. So these are just 2 examples. There are numerous studies showing how effective colostrum has been in the field of athletes and sports. So as far as body composition and exercise performance is concerned, this was another study showing the effects of bovine colostrum on body composition, and over an 8-week period. And the subjects that were involved in the study showed, if you look at the difference here, your colostrum group had a significant increase in bone-free lean mass. It means they were losing body fat, okay, compared to the placebo group. So let's think about this for a moment and see if you agree. The number 1 cause of all illness and disease is immune deficiency. If you happen to go back and rewind to see what it was that caused an illness, you would find the root of it would be a deficiency in your immune system. So we certainly don't want that. We want to be able to have a robust and a reliable immune system, because without it, as we've realized during COVID, you better make sure you've got a strong immune system, because you're playing with your life if you don't. So the root cause of most diseases, the root of it is inflammation, and we just wanted to reference an understanding of what leaky gut is and what inflammation is in the body, and how it affects you. So think about this. So the gut lining makes up about 75% of the body's total immune system, the gut. All right. So we have the organs around the body that the leaky gut in your gut has an effect on, starting from the brain with things like depression, anxiety, ADHD, skin. What about skin problems? Acne, eczema, psoriasis, thyroid, Hashimoto's disease, hypothyroidism, Graves' disease, colon issues, constipation, diarrhea, adrenal fatigue, joints, rheumatoid arthritis or RA, sinus and mouth, cold, food sensitivities, and allergies. This is all packaged around leaky gut. So what is leaky gut? Let's just talk about that for a moment. So this is where the germs enter the body via the gut wall, all right? And you'll see that on the diagram, second one down on the right, they start to cause inflammation. They start to break through the junctions in the gut, and these are the undigested food particles that end up going through the junctions of the stomach straight into the bloodstream. The immune system recognizes this as the invasion. It sets up inflammation, and so the process goes on. So this is damage to the gut. All right. So the immunoglobulins and colostrum or antibodies will support this weak immune system and heal and repair that gut lining. So these antibodies adhere or stick to these invading germs. You'll see the bottom picture on the right-hand side. Those are the little yellow ones around the pathogen, are the antibodies binding to that pathogen to take them out of the body. So they do an amazing job in cleaning up. So what happens is that this is a diagram of leaky gut, and you'll see those cells, those junctions as we call them, and you've got a break in those junctions where the food particles sneak through there and go straight into the bloodstream, and obviously set up what I've just showed you the slide of just now. So leaky gut occurs when you've got chronic inflammation. It causes the gut wall to develop microscopic leaks, which then lead to malabsorption, inflammation, and autoimmune disease. So can you see how this sets you up for all sorts of drama in your gut and in your body? All right. So we spoke about NSAIDs, how these anti-inflammatories cause gut damage, and painkillers, as most of these are, often cause these intestinal injuries. They cause leaky gut because they set up more inflammation and actually damage the gut, causing diarrhea, and also a case of what we call dysbiosis, okay, where you start to get an imbalance of the good bacteria in the gut. There's too much bad bacteria and the balance is really offset. So we need to rectify that balance. So how does that work? Well, the bovine colostrum reduced this. This is, looking at the studies and results where the colostrum reduced these injuries by 30 to 60%, guys. This is huge. Reducing that by between 30 and 60% is absolutely huge. It just means you've got a happier, healthier person when you've got a happier gut. So a plain milk preparation wasn't as effective as you can see. So bovine colostrum provides a novel and inexpensive approach. Why do we talk about inexpensive? For the prevention and treatment of gut injuries. Because if you compare the cost of steroids and anti-inflammatories on a long-term use and what you've got to end up dealing with, by comparison, colostrum is a far less expensive option. So 7.6 billion people around the world that battle with gut disorders. IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, affects 9% of the world population, guys. And look at this. The ratio of men to women is 2 to 1. 2 women to every guy. So I'm not sure if the women are stressing more or what they're doing, but those are the stats. So girls, we've got to help you look after your gut. So they say that the causes are not clear. We tend to differ because that generally would be a comment passed by the medical fraternity, but we certainly believe we know what the answers of those are. Lifestyle, diet, nutrition all play a factor, and it can be a combination of genetic factors and food sensitivities, which can trigger these intestinal infections. and stress. So if you don't think stress has got much to do with this, I want you to rethink that, because stress causes an enormous amount of acidity in the stomach. As you stress more, you produce more acid. So you're starting to also cause and add to your problem. So managing your stress is critically important to reduce the inflammation in the body. All right. Another little study of ulcerative colitis. So these are a lot of valuable studies that we look at, showing the results on all these trials. This is a randomized, double-blinded controlled trial, 14 patients. We just want to look at the results here. I don't want to get into the details from a time perspective, but the control group only reduced symptoms by 33% on mesalazine, and the mesalazine with colostrum had a significant better score, reducing the symptoms by 62%. So certainly showing that bovine colostrum shows huge potential in dealing with ulcerative colitis. And on the next slide, you will see right in the beginning, we discussed Helicobacter pylori, which is one of the primary bacteria that get into the bug, into the wall of the gut and set up gastric ulcers and cause a lot of pain and discomfort. And remember, I said that colostrum also has lactoferrin. This is present in colostrum. It's naturally present in colostrum, and you'll see this little bug here, this H. pylori, starts to dig into the that gel layer in the gut, and it really sets up all sorts of problems. So colostrum is also very effective in dealing with that. All right. So several studies that were done showing the effects of colostrum on this bug. Okay. So lactoferrin showing a lot of promise in a lot of human trials, showing a significant advantage in dealing with that bug H. pylori. So, well, do we all know about our grannies and older folk that battle with RA or rheumatoid arthritis? And just looking at those pictures there, we've got an early stage, an intermediate stage, and late rheumatoid arthritis, which is inflammatory, and we call it part of the autoimmune disorder. And at least we can say that because of the probiotics and the anti-inflammatory cytokine effect that colostrum shows is to significantly reduce inflammation on arthritic joints. So if you have people, especially the older folk that you know that are really battling with that, you've got a product that can deliver ease and reduce the inflammation. All right, so lactobacillus showing on this particular trial that if you look at CRP levels, that is a pathology marker that we use to test the levels of inflammation in the body. And the lactobacillus bacteria showed a huge reduction in the CRP stands for C-reactive protein. That's the marker they use to measure when you've got an infection or you've got a bug or you've got inflammation. We use that as a measurement. All right. So flu, colostrum reduces flu episodes and hospital admissions. This was a very big study called the San Valentino study, where they used colostrum for 2 months and followed up every 3 months. And I just want to get to the bottom line here. It was 3 to 4 times more effective than the vaccination to prevent flu in healthy patients. And part 2 of the study, you had 65 high-risk cardiovascular patients, and we were able to see that colostrum had significantly reduced cardiopulmonary complications and hospital admissions. So guys, we've got all of this built into colostrum. It's all there. These are just some of the studies. I've got piles of information regarding how well this does. This is about upper respiratory tract infections. And if you just have a look at the results there, bovine colostrum reduced these episodes of urinary tract infections by 91% and diarrhea by 86%. Guys, that is huge. So we know that it works as a prophylactic treatment of recurrent urinary tract infections and diarrhea. So I did mention it earlier, but here's a slide just showing one of the studies and actually showing how significant that reduction was. So AIDS patients that are they battle with this particular bug called Cryptosporidium. It's associated with diarrhea in AIDS patients, that the bovine colostrum has a significant effect in dealing with that as well. So there's another criteria that we'll deal with there. And earlier on, we spoke about the gut lining making up 75% of the body's immune system. So we see the scale here, the good versus the bad, okay? And on the right-hand side, this is what we want to see, where the scale is filled with more of the good and less of the bad, because when you've got all the bad side, that scale starts to tip the other way, where you've got all the viruses and bacteria and fungi and parasites overloading the gut. And we call this dysbiosis of the gut. We want to see this starting to happen, where we have more of the good stuff and less of the bad stuff, just as a very sort of easy overview of what that means. So here's a little cheat. We mentioned earlier on how many of the natural probiotics were added to the colostrum, and you can see this is your answer: 1 billion. 1 billion CFU, that's colony forming units, is the measurement that they give to a probiotic. And generally that you need to be able to see on a label how many you get. All right, so the probiotic is the healthy bacteria that colonizes in your intestine, which we call the good guy. And obviously, as you age and deteriorate, and you battle with all the bugs and stuff and maldigestion, and your immune system weakens, you get all the bad stuff coming in. So this was just a study on high quality probiotics that are added to colostrum that come from a Danish company. I'm not sure if this particular company is the one that supplies New Image, but certainly there is huge value in probiotics. So right, so this is just a little slide of showing you from birth to old age. And then you've got a count on the gut flora on the left-hand side of the screen, and you'll see how things start to change and deteriorate as you get older. They start to increase, where the good bugs start to come down and the bad bugs start to increase. So the gut flora does change with age. So naturally, as we get older, we want to start adding more of this natural flora, the good bacteria, into our gut, so we can try and reduce or keep the balance, a much healthier and a happier balance in your gut, right? So Alzheimer's disease, wow, isn't that just a nasty diagram of shrinkage of the brain there? So there are several factors that are considered here: the genetic, head injuries, depression, hypertension. So what did I mention early on about proline-rich polypeptides in your colostrum? All right, this is a hormone in a bovine colostrum that regulates the thyroid, the thymus gland. And what it does is help balance. It's a great communicator. It helps communication between cells, but it's also an immune modulator. So it takes an overactive immune system and it helps to balance it and bring it down, and an underactive immune system, it helps to bring it back into balance again. So it's quite an incredible peptide in colostrum. It's also called colostrin, is another word for it, and it can only be extracted from colostrum. It only comes from colostrum. You can't get it any other way. All right, so there is the name, colostrin, and this was used for treating Alzheimer's disease. This was another study, so I'm not going to get too detailed with that, but it was just showing how effective the proline-rich polypeptides were for Alzheimer's disease. All right. MS, multiple sclerosis, many people battling with this at the moment. The virological and immunological studies suggest that MS is an autoimmune disease triggered by a virus. So as we know, colostrum is a phenomenal antiviral product. And while we're talking about viruses, guys, Viranox is loaded with antibodies, way higher than our standard colostrum. And it does have the bovine colostrum in it, but this is your, what I call shotgun therapy for virus infection. So remember, it is now officially launched. It is available, and keep this in mind when it comes to dealing with bugs like viral bugs. A phenomenal product. You guys have done your homework. Well done. Right. So yeah, let me not get too detailed. These are just a few more of the studies. Oxidative stress, you know what that is. It leads on to free radical damage, aging, and cancer. So colostrum is very, very good at helping reduce oxidative stress. And if anybody doesn't know what oxidation is, okay, I'll give you an example. If you take a bite into an apple, okay, and you leave that apple for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, you will start to see that portion of the apple that you bit into start to go brown. That's oxidation. That happens at cell level. And all these things affect a cell. Okay, free radicals, excess sun, pollution, stress, poor diet, they damage the cell. They damage around that outer layer of the cell. And obviously, we don't want that. We don't want damaged cells, which lead to aging. We want to keep our cells happy and healthy. So remember that colostrum is very, very important in oxidative stress or reducing damage to cells. All right. So we did mention that colostrum also contains glutathione, which is a powerful antioxidant. And glutathione is a scavenger of these free radicals. It helps go around and clean up and really reduces the amount of free radicals in the body. So an antioxidant and oxidation, I hope you now kind of realize the difference between the two. So oxidation is that bad stuff that happens to the cell. So a product that's classified, or a component that's classified as an antioxidant, helps deal with that. All right. So there we have it in a circle there. That's just a bit of the technical information. I don't want to get too wrapped up in that. And anti-aging and the effects of human growth hormone, okay, in men over 60 years. This was another study, all right, showing how the IGF-1, due to the reduction of IGF-1, remember IGF-1 comes in colostrum, so when you have a big reduction in IGF-1, you have a decrease in lean body mass, and you also have the development of adipose or fat tissue. All right, so we need an adequate level of IGF-1, or the human growth hormone. All right, this also leads to thinning of the skin. And this was a little study that was given to 21 men aged 60 to 80. They gave them the human growth hormone, IGF-1, this was 3 times a day for 6 months. All right, look at the results. It restored and improved the health and appearance by gaining 8.8% in muscle mass. They lost 14% fat, and they increased the thickness of the skin as well. I don't know what the percentage was, but I think that's also showing one example of this component in colostrum, what else it can do. And look at the age, guys. This is aging, right? 60 to 80 years old. So if we can do that and reverse aging, this is one of the ways of one component in colostrum that helps us get there. All right, diabetes is a big deal these days, guys. So this is showing how bovine colostrum reduces glucose, blood glucose, cholesterol, triglycerides, and ketone levels in a type 2 diabetic patient. So let's just go straight to the results. Total cholesterol and triglyceride levels decreased significantly after 4 weeks. And the conclusion was that bovine colostrum is beneficial in decreasing glucose, ketones, cholesterol, TG levels in type 2 diabetic patients. We always put the reference at the bottom of the page. So this is not something we've sucked out of thin air. It is one of the studies we've been able to take just the information, the necessary information from the study, and just reference it down at the bottom. All right. Now, I did mention early on that we wanted to show something about using colostrum for dressing, the dressing of wounds and deep wounds. And these slides, I believe, were made available to us from Dr. Gerhardt down in Cape Town, who's a hematologist. And they wanted to show how effective colostrum was in dressing the wounds. So you'll see here, this is putting the powder onto a gauze, all right, on the left-hand side of the screen here. 15 days later, okay, if you take day 15 on colostrum powder and then the conventional dressing on the right-hand side, that wound is hardly changed and cleaned compared to the one in the middle. This is using colostrum. So it is helping repair tissue. So this is using the colostrum powder packed onto a dressing and used direct onto the wound to help heal and seal that wound. So if it's doing this on the wound, remember that it's also doing it internally into the gut. Okay, so I had an experience where my wife and I were down in KZN, we were on our bicycles, and we turned around to go, to make a U-turn. And at the time, she got her feet wrong on the pedals, and she fell into a fence, which caught her on the arm and sliced her arm open. And this was a rusted fence. And I was really worried about it because you don't want a really rusted fence to gash into your arm. So we raced home on our bikes and I packed colostrum onto that wound. This was my own experience of dealing with this. And I can tell you that by the next morning, all we saw was a small line. There was no infection. There was no redness around the area. That gash on that arm, we packed it with colostrum. I strapped it up using a gauze, and we put the colostrum in. And I only knew about this as a result of knowing this. So for those of you that really want to know a bit more about the application on colostrum, I think this provides huge value. All right. This was one of the patients in Cape Town, and just showing how amazing that this wound on the side of this patient had healed up significantly, and keeping the wound clean, no further infection. This is the main thing when you're dealing with wounds, guys, is infection and sepsis. When the sepsis gets into the blood and into the body, you've got a real fight on your hands. So we don't want that. And we've seen how important colostrum is in dealing with sepsis. All right. It plays a massive role in infection. So, right, let's jump ahead. So just a brief looking at, 3 other products, which is the AlphaLipid LifeLine tin in the powder form, the capsules and the tablets. So we have a look at each kind of breakdown here, where you can mix it into a drink on the powder. It's got the extra nutrients. The capsules, if you don't want to taste the product and you want to just swallow a capsule, and the tablets, if you don't like to swallow capsules but you don't want to mix a drink each day. So it's the convenience about taking colostrum on the go. Okay. I personally love the taste of it. But sometimes it is convenient if you're traveling to take the tablets or the chews with you, so you can just pop them as you go. All right. So very convenient there. Colostrum is a fantastic product for stem cell activity, anti-aging, healing and regeneration. The cell works. It is an older picture, but we're just talking about the whoops, the Cell Works, this one here. All right, this is the one we're talking about, the new Cell Works. Sorry, I just dropped something onto my screen, which moved the slides. And the ImmuFort, which is the product that was available prior to the Viranox. Okay, so it's a phenomenally good product. It's very powerful in supporting the immune system, just like the Viranox is, but the Viranox is kind of like a fortified ImmuFort, and it has a few extra added ingredients into the Viranox that the ImmuFort doesn't have. So guys, I hope that helps you. This has been an overview, and I didn't really want to rush the slides, but I hope that's given you a better overview of the products, how to use them, but a much better perspective on Colostrum as just an entity, a product on its own, which has been put into all these individual products. So I hope that's given you a better overview and a better perspective. And I'm going to ask Vinesh to come back into the screen here, because I know that we mentioned we want a book available, and I want you guys to receive a copy of the book so that you can use it for yourself, and obviously to send copies to your friends or family. So Vinesh, what I'm going to suggest is that would you like me to make the book available through you at New Image, and guys can download it from there, or would you want them to go to our website? I'm quite happy to do that.
That's perfect, Doc. I think what you can do is you can send us a link. We've got a presentation coming up next week. We'll then post it out onto that presentation, and the guys are welcome to download it on that presentation. So that'll be early next week. Fantastic information, Doc. Always so much to learn, right? And we want to thank you for your time today, and obviously all that valuable information. Lots of stuff to learn on here, but thank you so much for your time. I would like to now hand over to our Regional Director of Africa, Mr. Chris Roger Perry. I believe, sir, you have some stuff to give away, so over to you.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Hopper. I've got much more than stuff to give away. We've got one of the legends in our business on this call today, one of the superstars that actually helped to get our business going globally. One of the superstars in Malaysia, one of the first diamonds in Malaysia, one of the key people who I recognize around the world for their loyalty, their leadership, the energy that they put into getting to be one of the first diamonds in New Image, and one of the first $1 million earners in the world. So I'm very privileged. I've spent a lot of time with her and her husband in Malaysia, and her name is Nick and Moharina Muhammad. And I've just asked her, whilst Dr. Hopper was talking, if she would share her testimonial with us, seeing that she's on the call. I feel very privileged to have her on the call today because she's one of the outstanding role models for what the colostrum can do, and the inspiration for thousands of people in Malaysia and other Asian countries around the world. So if you're there, Maharina, or Rena, Pam and I call her Rena. We've known her for a long time. Would you like to come on and just share your testimonial about how the colostrum has helped you to reinforce all the stuff that Dr. Hopper's been sharing with us over the last 45 odd minutes? So if you're there, that'd be great to have you part of the call.
Hi, everyone. Hi, I'm Moharina from Malaysia. Assalamualaikum to those Muslims. And been with New Image for 20 years. You know, can you imagine how many testimonies that we've been collected for 20 years? And so far, I would say that Colostrum did give hope or a new life for many people in Malaysia. And our recent testimonies is cancer stage 4, you know, how they recover. The testimonies here are all on chronic disease, like Chris, you've been here in Malaysia, right? So the testimonies we collected are all amazing recovery. And I just want to share here that when people take our products, they love it, they see the recovery, and they repeat orders. That is your passive income in New Image. Thank you so much, Dr. Anthony, for your very informative information just now, and we understand more about Colostrum now. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chris, for this opportunity. Hope to see you in Bali.
Yes, thanks, Marina. Moharina, it's always a pleasure to meet you guys and rub shoulders with winners in the game and the game of life and the game of New Image. So thanks for coming on there very quickly. I do have one more testimonial that a person, Jane Sharda, she's from Uganda, and I see Ethel on the call here, Vincent on the call, and a lot of other members from outside of South Africa on the call. So well done. Congratulations being on the call. But Uganda is going to hear a lot more from Jane Sharda. She's currently a member, but for 2 years she had quite a large goiter growing out the side of her neck. And she got introduced to the AlphaLipid just late last year, around about August, September, and she was introduced to the Colostrum by one of her doctor friends, a medical doctor, and she started taking the Colostrum, and within 2 weeks, you heard Dr. Hopper talk about inflammation and all those things that create the diseases and promote them. Well, in 2 weeks, Jane Sharda, the goiter started to reduce in size, and it actually sort of transferred itself around to the front of her neck. And now you can hardly notice her. Pam and I were up in Uganda there about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, and I'm not a doctor, but there was a doctor in the audience, and he said, "Let me have a look." I think I can see it, a little bit of it, but for the average person, you would never know that goiter was there. So these are truly amazing products, and we obviously we've got lots of stories like that around the world. Nick and Marina have seen thousands of those. But Dr. Ants, I'd like to thank you once again. We've done lots of miles together over the years, and traveling, telling the story of Colostrum, and we got lots more work to do yet around the world, not only here in Africa, but all around the world. So one thing that a lot of people should realize in this direct selling industry is there's a number of companies that have got good products, but very few have unique and completely natural products which deliver on the promise. I'll just say that once again. There's a lot of good companies out there in the direct selling business, but very few have unique, completely natural products which deliver on the promise. So I want you to think about that and make a note of that when you're sharing the message of Colostrum with people as you journey through your journey with New Image. All right, so thanks, Dr. Hopper. Very valuable information as always, and we look forward to reading your book. A couple of things on a company level. We've got the big conference coming up in Bali, and that's next week, the 9th till the 14th. I'd like to congratulate Neri and Hansi, two executives, Emerald executives here in South Africa. They're off to Bali, and I know you're on the call here, Neri, so congratulations. I know you'll have lots of fun there, and join the other members from South Africa as well. The theme for those on this call here, the theme for the conference in Bali is "It ain't stopping us now." It ain't stopping us now. And the other one is "Whatever it takes." Right, so they're two good theme songs, and I know that they're going to get belted around in Bali there. Lots of excitement, lots of fun, and lots of bonding with other leaders from around the world. It's so amazing now. So what's happening? what is it, 30, when I joined, 84 to 89, that's 5 years. When I joined 34 years ago, New Image, I never thought I'd be sitting here in South Africa talking to everyone, the audience online today. I never thought we'd be going to places like Bali, a five-star paradise. So much beauty over there, to share the wonderful experiences with all the people that are going to be there. I think it's just wonderful. So congratulations. I know there's going to be lots of learning there. The other announcement is we have a new operations director for Africa, actually. A new operations director, someone that's going to be running all of Africa. Our replacement, Pam and I, will be heading back to Australia at some stage once the new team here in Africa have got their feet under the table and are confident that they can manage the business moving forward. So we've got a new a person called Leoshni Dwaka. I'm not sure Nuri probably can pronounce that much better than I can, but she's a wonderful lady. She's been through a very rigorous interview process, not only with myself on a number of occasions, but with the CEO in New Zealand and the chairman. They've had lots of input into the selection process, because we want to not only take the business to another level here, but also take it to another 5-10 levels here. And we need local people who talk like locals rather than foreigners like us to make it an African business. So we welcome Leoshni to run the operation in Africa here. Just a couple of dates that you should write down. One date is the 18th of March. And Leoshni will be doing a big welcome to Leoshni and KZN here at our office. And she'll be not only be welcoming her, she's going to be sharing the vision that she has for Africa, how she a few ideas on strategic plans of how to achieve the growth that she knows that that is available there, and most importantly, how she's going to implement it with the team here in Africa. So a lot of things to look forward to on the 18th here in KZN, and on the 25th we're going to be welcoming her to Gauteng, right? And she'll be introduced and doing the same format for the welcome and introduction and the vision that she's got for Africa as well. So make sure you get your teams revved up. She's off to Bali with the person Jane Sharda from Uganda. Lucky people. Only not even working the business yet, but off to Bali already, because it's such a unique opportunity for the new leaders to be able to rub shoulders and really get the confidence and belief that everything's possible with New Image. It's the only thing that's not possible is monitoring your attitude towards doing the business. So everything else works, the products work, the company works, and all you need to do is apply yourself to work the system and produce the results, not for the company, for yourself. When you succeed, the company succeeds. So not the other way around. The company can't succeed without its members succeeding. So there's a couple of important dates for you coming up. Just a couple of other things too is the top income in New Image in Taiwan and Vietnam in the last conference in December was just on 4 million rands, which is 400,000 New Zealand dollars in the month. That's an 83-year-old couple from Taiwan originally, but they were in the Vietnam conference there. So there's huge incomes to be made, and we know that income's not everything in life. The most important thing is your health, because without health, you can't create income anyway. It's pretty difficult anyway. I guess Shamima knows that better than most on this call here today. But certainly having a secure, stable, sustainable business is certainly one of the keys to keeping yourself propped up and having a healthy long-term life and reducing stress. So that's another kind of key there for you. So a couple of questions here. I said that at the beginning that I'd had a couple of questions here for the guests and the members who might want to win one of our beautiful Colostrum capsule products. They've got a retail value of just over 1,000 rands here in South Africa. So if the guests have got their finger on the laptop or on their phone, here comes the question. And as soon as the first one to type it into the chat box there wins the 1,000 bucks worth of product. That's the retail price. All right, so here we go for the guests here. How many times more potent is bovine colostrum than human mother's colostrum? How many times more potent is bovine colostrum than human mother's colostrum? So it's got to be a guest, not a member, right? So I know that Venetia's got his finger on the trigger there with Shamima, and they both know who the guests are. So that's the question for the guests. Now, the question for the members. A bit more trickier for the members, and so that's how it should be as well. So for the members, what level do you have to be at in South Africa to qualify for the country pool? What executive level do you have to be at to qualify for the country pool bonus here in South Africa? All right, so there we go there. So no doubt. So who have we got there, Vanish? You can come back on the show now and tell us who are the guests. Who's the guest that won? The first question: How many times more potent is the colostrum, bovine colostrum, than the human mother's colostrum? Are you there, Vanish?
Yes, Chris, I am here, just going through the answers. Quite a bit of answers here that came through. I think on the member one, we have Shamima with 2-star silver, right?
Yes,
and I
correct.
think your question.
Okay.
All right.
She's always got a finger on the button, ready to push it. I don't know how. I think she got a finger taped to the button, right? The enter button.
Yep. Just behind her was Suraya, so all of them always on the
All
go
right.
with the buttons.
We only got one prize though. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah.
And the guest.
And tell me, does this apply to our international guests online as well, or just South African guests?
It's a bit difficult because it's hard to. It costs more to send the products over there than it does but we can sort that out later. Who is the first person there?
I think I see Mohazina Mohammed. I hope I got that right.
All right, she's a Malaysian member, is she?
That's correct. It looks like it. That is correct.
All right, what we'll do is we'll give congratulations, great to be on the call. What we'll do is we'll give a bottle of product to our new operations director, Leoshni, and she can take a bottle over there, or we'll give it to actually Neri and Hansi might be able to transport that for us, and they can take it over to Bali and give it to the young lady.
Perfect.
So there we go there. All right, so we'll always find a way. Nothing's impossible with New Image. The only thing that's impossible is if you think it is. All right, thanks, Vanish. Thanks, Dr. Hopper. And thanks, everyone, for being on the call this afternoon. Great to have you part of it. And especially Moharina Mohammed, certainly a superstar in our business. Great privilege to have you on the call. Thanks a lot.